Hi guys, so this is an excerpt from a Miriam Style Club video that I've recently done, and it's all about Blended-Sharpened, and the closest Kibbe type to that is a Dramatic Classic. The video is about a half hour long, and I dive deeper into explaining the lines, and then I go through a bunch of shopping pages and do mostly tops, and talk about how the things would fit and work or not work, and then I also go through pants, skirts, dresses, and shoes. So it's for like the second half of the video. So I hope you guys enjoy this excerpt, and let's get into it. Oh, and I'll leave a link, of course, to Miriam Style Club in the description so that you can find out how you can join if you want to see the full video. Okay, I hope you enjoy it. Hi guys, so today we are talking about Blended-Sharpened, and the closest Kibbe type to Blended-Sharpened is Dramatic Classic. And so there are some differences. So I kind of tend to split Dramatic Classic into two, and we're only talking about Blended-Sharpened. I also found that there is another subtype of Dramatic Classic called Blended Beveled. And so the difference between Blended Sharpened and Blended Beveled is, well, let me first talk about just blended, right? So blended is the closest type is pure classic, and there are a lot of things that don't apply to body geometry that you might find in the Kibbe community online. For example, I don't think that blended types are symmetrical or have to be symmetrical or have symmetrically spaced features or anything like that. It's all about having moderate length lines and not too long and not too short, and about having primarily smooth angles. So that's what blended is all about. I found that those two things are like the defining characteristic of blended, and not really so much like the figure that you might have, or the height, or the symmetry. Okay, so those things don't go into body geometry. So I've boiled it down to being just the bone structure, being primarily smooth angles and moderate length lines, not too long, not too short. Now, so that's blended, right? And now when we have Blended-Sharpened, Blended-Sharpened takes some influence from the sharpened bone structure. And that means that Blended-Sharpened has all of those characteristics of blended that I just talked about, the moderate length lines and everything like that. But the thing is that Blended-Sharpened has some sharper angles, like a few sharper angles. They can also have like some slightly longer lines. They just have that sharpened influence. And yeah, so that's what makes Blended-Sharpened. Some celebrity examples are, well, I'll say Nina Dobrev is a celebrity example. And on the other hand, I also have Blended Beveled. So Blended Beveled takes the, it's primarily blended, right? Primarily moderate length lines, primarily smooth angles, but maybe a touch of width or a touch of beveled angles. And so that would be Jackie Kennedy. Jackie Kennedy is blended beveled in body geometry. Right now, we're only talking about blended sharpened. So we're talking about people who have primarily smooth angles, moderate length lines, and some sharpness to them. So that's what we're talking about today. Some other time I will do blended beveled as well. So the difference in body geometry is that I split basically Dramatic Classic into two parts. So in Kibbe language, right, we have Dramatic Classic, who gets the yang undercurrent from the bone structure, and what I'm saying is that you could get your yang undercurrent from sharp yang or from soft yang. So that's kind of like in Kibbe speak, sort of how I would describe it. So there are two types of the blended types in body geometry. And right now we're talking about Blended-Sharpened. Okay, so hopefully that wasn't too long of an intro, but I really wanted to stress that there are two types, and we're only talking about Blended-Sharpened here. And sometimes, you could still be Blended-Sharpened if you have a few beveled angles, but you also have some sharp angles. So it's not a cut and dry type of thing. You definitely could still be, if your beveled angles look very substantial, maybe they can still look like a bit more sharp, and you can still do some Blended-Sharpened as well. So if you're blended beveled, this could still apply to you, but this is primarily for Blended-Sharpened. Okay. Oh, well, let me talk about the lines really briefly. before we get into looking at the items. So we have lines that are moderate in length, so they're not particularly cropped, but they're also not going past a certain point. So you don't have super long sleeves, you don't have like pants that go all the way to the floor, things like that. You don't have that, but you also don't have cropped. So you have moderate length lines. You also have symmetry, and you have some contrasting detail because you have that geometric influence and because you have moderate length lines. So you have some contrasting detail, some geometrics, some mid to heavyweight fabrics, and geometrics can be something like V-necks, they can be a geometric print, anything like that, a geometric belt, anything like that. So the difference that you have between pure sharpened and blended sharpened is that pure sharpened looks good with asymmetry and blended sharpened does not. Blended sharpened looks good with symmetrical outfits because you are primarily blended. Okay, so let's get into talking about the items that we have. All right, so let's take a look at some tops. So something like this could actually work for blended sharpened pretty well, just because yes, it is it's a little bit messy in terms of how the lines are. It doesn't completely fall cleanly, but at the same time, it does have straight lines. So something like this could work for blended sharpened, depending on the details of how it fits. I guess in the black color, in the black texture, it looks like it has cleaner lines, but here, now that I look at it, it really does not look like it has clean lines at all. So if it looks like this, then definitely blended sharpened, it wouldn't work for blended sharpened. If it looks like this, then maybe it would work. Something like this could work, actually. I would prefer if the pocket was on both sides because, you want that symmetry. You don't want to have a pocket on one side under any circumstances if you are blended sharpened. So, but the pocket does blend into the top. So I think this would work pretty well, and the geometric pattern would work pretty well. It has moderate length lines. That's the other thing, is it doesn't look too long, but it doesn't look too short or cropped. So, and it has straight lines. So that would work pretty well for blended sharpened. This being cropped and then being a lightweight fabric and having those rounded shapes there at the neckline really would not work well for blended sharpened. Something like this, I mean, it could potentially work. It's just that it's simple enough that it could work, and the sleeves might look kind of like a contrasting pattern maybe, and the way that the neckline is designed, it just adds like an additional element of symmetry from left to right, and that's what I mean by symmetry, is symmetry left to right. So that could actually work well, and also the bold color, the darker color, like blended sharpened looks good in darker colors than your coloring calls for. That doesn't mean you have to wear black all the time, it just means that colors that are darker than your coloring are going to really be effortless on you. So this, of course, you want to avoid anything with asymmetry, and you want to avoid anything that's baggy or loose or anything like that. This would work, this would work just with the jeans, just like that, because the thing with blended sharpened is that you would also look good in everything that blended looks good in. So this is really like for a pure blended type. I mean, it's just very simple, basic, and that would work for blended sharpened too. You really want to avoid things like this, okay? This has really short lines. This is for mixed taut, for flamboyant gamine. It is not for a blended sharpened. So we have something that's cropped, so you want to avoid that. And it also looks like the fabric kind of stands on its own, and it doesn't fall in clean lines. It's more just kind of like a crisp fabric. So you want to be thinking about like crisp fabrics are more consistent with short lines because they kind of stand on their own, and they can be, especially in short line, in a cropped item, it's going to look really quite like a short line. Of course, you want to avoid anything like this that is cropped, and also you want to avoid these tiny little the hemline detailing. You want to avoid that because that is more for rounded. You want to avoid anything like this that is luxurious. This, however, could work pretty well. You can see that it has like a clean line that goes all the way down like that. Yes, the slouchy sleeve is definitely not ideal for blended sharpened, okay? But the thing is that the 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 horizontal lines are okay. It's going to look very, very casual on you. That's the thing. It's going to look extremely casual, and you might not want to front tuck it like that because that creates too much bunching up and it makes the lines look shorter and everything. If you wear it untucked and it kind of falls cleanly and it doesn't look like it's bunching up or anything, then, and look at how it's actually kind of long. It goes like past the hip line for her. So that actually works pretty well for, it could work pretty well for blended sharpened. But if you do the front tuck like she does, this is really more for mixed top for flamboyant guinean. These are just a little too slouchy for you, you know, kind of, the lines are not clean enough, the v-neck is not pronounced enough. Like, this is not really a true v-neck. It's kind of like a rounded v-neck in a way. So, but you can really do t-shirts pretty well, actually, blended sharpened. It's just that you want it to be a thicker cotton. You want for the v-neck to be pretty pronounced. You don't want it to be this kind of loose thing. You don't want to do a front tuck. Yeah, and something like this is just too lightweight of a fabric for you. Yeah, too lightweight of a fabric. This could actually work. I mean, it's just like a basic cut, you know, so it could work. And since you have slightly longer lines, like you have moderate lines, but you have slightly longer lines, something that goes past the knuckle for the sleeve length could be pretty flattering. Something like this could work if you don't do the front tuck. You see how it has, this is what I mean by like a defined v-neck. Yeah, see, that could work. And you could even do, if you have a similar color bottom, you could do a front tuck. It wouldn't be ideal because it would cause like the bunching up, which would look messy on you. And the reason why bunching up or front tucks look messy on you is because front tucks are actually for beveled. They're for naturals. So what happens is that beveled types have these beveled angles to their bone structure. They have beveled angles to their face, and then when you tuck something in, it's going to create folds, and those folds are going to basically look like beveled angles. So any folds, you know, these types of folds around the waistline there and stuff, they can sort of echo beveled angles. And, you know, as blended sharpened, you don't have any beveled angles, okay? Like, you probably don't have any. So you have no business, you know, you just have no business with these folds. You just have nothing to do with them because you are blended sharpened. You don't have any beveled angles, so folds are for beveled angles. Especially folds that are like in thicker fabrics that really look like beveled angles. They don't look like soft folds or something. That's really for beveled. This is too short for you. And also the thing with the colors is you want to be careful with anything that's like light pastel type of stuff. You want to stay away from light and pastel type stuff because you have that sharpened influence. You want to go for darker colors. Colors that are darker for your coloring. So if you are super light and blonde and you wear terracotta, that would be definitely dark enough for you as blended sharpened. If you have my coloring, terracotta might be too light for you if you're blended sharpened, okay? So it's relative to your own coloring. You want to avoid satin as blended sharpened because that's just going to look too, it's going to look too disconnected from you. See this, if this was in a darker color, I talked about this for pure blended. For pure blended, I said that, you know, it would be okay to wear this with a similar color skirt like this lady is doing here, simply because if it looks like that and it doesn't, it's cropped, but it doesn't look like it's cropped because it's a similar color and the midriff isn't showing, then it doesn't look like a short line. It looks like it's just going right into the skirt, so it looks like a moderate line. So I said it'd be okay for blended to wear, pure blended. If you're blended sharpened, something like this could work if only the colors were different, that's all. You see all the symmetry, you see that the collar of the shirt has some geometrics to it, right? Yeah, so an outfit like this in bolder or darker colors would actually work pretty well for blended sharpened. And you can see also the fabric of the skirt is a bit thicker, and we also have a lot of symmetry going on. We have the buttons going down the center of both the top and the skirt, and we have the pockets on the skirt on both sides. So symmetry is really good for, symmetry left to right is really good for a blended sharpened. If this were in bolder or darker colors, that would work well. Let's see. So this is still too loose and too soft. This is more for beveled, okay? Because this is like really quite oversized and has quite long lines. This is for beveled soft, so I would avoid anything like this that has the lightweight fabrics and then is also oversized if you are blended sharpened. And again, this is not, it's not too bad, you know. It's just that, what are we noticing here? We have, I believe we have a pocket on one side. And, you know, like I said, we don't want pockets on one side, we want them on both sides. Everything's symmetrical. While we're talking about it, we also don't want, you know how sometimes people as a statement wear different earrings on each ear? You don't want to do that, definitely not as blended sharpened. So you want everything symmetrical left to right. And the thing is with this one is that it could work, maybe in a darker color it could work. That's the thing. Because what I'm thinking about is that if you do find things that are in a lighter weight fabric then maybe works for you, what you could do to make the visual weight a bit more grounded is to make the color darker. So if you have a choice between, you really have your heart set on this chiffon top or something like that, and there's an option for it in burgundy or in ash pink or something, go for the burgundy, because burgundy and dark colors, pure black, dark charcoal gray, anything like that, brown, any dark colors that are not bright and not pastels are going to make things look heavier visually. So since you look most effortless in fabrics that are maybe moderate to heavy in weight, if you go for a lightweight fabric, at least go for a darker color to kind of ground the look a little bit. So that's why I was saying maybe for this one, you know, you could go for something that if this top was in darker colors, you could go for that. This could work, you know, depending on how you style it. Of course, you might want to style it with some geometric jewelry and things like that. You could wear this, okay? I'm not saying you can't wear this. I'm just saying you're going to look like you're painting your house if you wear this, which is not a bad thing. It's just that I think it's too wide for you, and so you're going to look like you're painting your house, and that's what's going to happen. And it doesn't matter which one you wear, they will all make you look like you are painting your house, especially this one. So if you're looking for a very casual type of top, then you could go for something like this. And out of these, this one would be the best in terms of your lines. Well, I guess it depends on your coloring. Like if you have really light coloring, then maybe this one would work. I'm thinking about what I want to see is like kind of more of a contrasting geometric pattern. So something like this, you know, I think they would all work. It really just depends on your coloring. If you have really high contrast coloring, then go for something like this. If you have lighter coloring, go for something like that. If you are in the middle, go for something like this. Like if you're warm and delicate, do this one. If you're warm and delicate and medium contrast, do this one. Yeah, so crop tops really don't really work too well for you just because you have moderate length lines. And this, let's see it in black. Ooh, so maybe in black, like this jacket could work for you really well in black. But you want to, again, avoid things that are like breaking up the lines. So this entire outfit breaks up the lines between the light and the dark, right? So you want to avoid that, but the jacket would work really well for you. Or otherwise, if you get something that, like this could actually work pretty well for Blended Sharpened with the jacket and everything. And this would not work as well because it's too bright of a color for you. So it's either this, this would work well together, like the I guess it's a suit or something, and the jacket, right? The whole thing would work well. But this would not work as well because there's that color block at the midriff. It's the same thing as like here. So you want to avoid the color blocking to maintain your moderate length lines. This, of course, would work. It's a staple top. I think that would work really well. This would work in this navy color. You know, the other thing with Blended Sharpened, you know what I noticed, you guys, is that I really tend to like on Sharpened and Blended Sharpened these kinds of like really clear chroma, cool colors like navies, pure blacks. I tend to really like those colors because they are they have a very defined feel to them, just like the sharpened bone structure has a defined feel to it. So I tend to really like navies and pure blacks on Blended Sharpened as well as on Sharpened. Depending on your color type, of course, it depends on if it would work for you. Even on Warm and Delicate, let's say, or Warm and Delicate Blended Sharpened, I would still like to see like navy on such a person, depending on their contrast levels, like if it's not terribly dark on them. So yeah. So we have, again, that would work. Okay. I would avoid some patterns like this, you know, that have the rounded shapes. I would avoid patterns like that. I would go for solid colors or otherwise geometric patterns. But really, when in doubt, I would just go for solid colors. So this fabric is just this is more for beveled firm, okay? This fabric is just, I mean, it's not really the fabric, it's the fabric and cut combination where it's like kind of standing on its own and it's creating all these folds. Even though it has a V-neck, I wouldn't recommend this for Blended Sharpened simply because it's kind of, all of these folds is what I'm talking. You see how here, this fold creates a beveled angle, doesn't it? Right? And so this is for a beveled type. So that's why oversized things look good on beveled angles. This is a part of like the work that I've done for body geometry is figuring out why certain types look good in certain things and what makes certain types what they are. You know, what really makes a type what they are. And so for beveled, the reason why they look good in beveled angles is in oversized things is because they have beveled angles. Because oversized things create these folds which echo their beveled angles, right? And also, of course, they have wider bones, so oversized things also look good on them. But this is not about beveled. This is about Blended Sharpened. So, you know, black turtlenecks, that would look really excellent on Blended Sharpened. I would avoid anything like this, anything with ruffles, but, you know, this pattern, this print would actually work well for Blended Sharpened. This would work well, you know, for working out or something. Like this is a really good option for Blended Sharpened. This is too short, too cropped. You can see even the sleeve looks cropped. Something like this would work pretty well. You know, it's a basic, so that would work. Oh, see, I like this. So this is exactly what I mean by, like, you see how this top it has like kind of cleaner lines to it, and the cotton of the top is a bit thicker, but it also is smooth. It's not like this like extremely crisp type of cotton where it'll like stand completely on its own. It just looks like it has smooth, clean lines. So this would actually work really well. This t-shirt would work really well on either pure blended or blended sharpened. And yeah, so you can sort of see how it just has some cleaner lines versus the t-shirts before that we were looking at. They were just too drapey, you know, like, yeah, it's like the fabric is really thin. You can tell that the fabric is really thin because the pocket is darker, is more pigmented than the shirt, and the hemlines of it, the hem of it is more pigmented than the shirt. So you can tell just how lightweight and sort of like, yeah, just really light the fabric is. So you want to avoid something like this and instead go for something that is a bit cleaner in lines, something like this. And see how the hem of this, like the hem around the neckline, for example, or the sleeves, they look like they're the same color as the t-shirt. So you can tell that the t-shirt is like thick enough for blended sharpened. This, of course, would work well. Something like this, I think it might be a little bit too glamorous because it is like a satin texture, but I could see this working because actually it has like around the neckline, it has the geometric type of design, you know, so I know it's kind of a surprise, but I could see this working in the right outfit for blended sharpened. Just make sure that the rest of your look is really really in line with your own lines, you know, with pants like this and everything. That could work, but the hair could be really, really sleek, really well styled, and your makeup could be with the emphasis on the eyes and things like that. So yeah, so this could actually work. And these two, I wouldn't say this would work because this is too baggy, of course, but something like this could work. But this type of scoop neckline is what it's called, I think. I would say that I would avoid those just because V-necks are better, or even like boat necks can tend to work better for blended sharpened, I've found, than scoop necks. So yeah. So now we can move on to pants. Alright, so that is all for the excerpt. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave some comments down below and let me know your thoughts. And if you are blended sharpened yourself, then leave some tips for other people with your body type and let them know what worked for you. I'll leave a link to Club in the description so that you guys can see how you can join. And leave me some comments as usual. And thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you next time. Okay, bye.